Studio in South Florida, Twist Gaming. Featuring lead broadcaster, Matt Koza. Co-host and creative genius, Josh Perry. Co-host and interviewer extraordinaire, Ann Lazito. Co-host and marketing mogul, Aaron Murphy. With appearances from special guest, Lucy. Welcome to Twist Gaming, where you get to play board games with us.
Good evening, everyone. We are Twist Gaming, and I'm Matt.
I'm Ann.
I'm Josh.
And this is our first impression session of our Spotlight stream, where we show off our favorite aspects of the game, any constructive criticisms we have, and the most important question of the evening of would we play the game again. And tonight we had the pleasure of showing off Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Perilous Pursuit by USAopoly. Big shout out to them for sponsoring this stream and all of this week's streams. And before we jump into it, Josh, can you give us a rundown of what Perilous Pursuit is? What kind of game are we talking about?
It's an entry. We were talking about this a little bit during the stream. It's an entry-level game. It's a dice chucker, dice placement game. It's a co-op where you're trying to capture the Fantastic Beasts.
Do we know where to find them?
Not in the briefcase.
Not in the briefcase.
That's where we're trying to put them.
So, dice chucker, some Yahtzee elements, and cooperative.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. So, jumping into the favorite aspects of the game, we talk about what we really enjoyed, and we typically start with the person that won the game, but since this is a cooperative game...
We're going to start with the person who put the most beasts in briefcases,
so that's
which was
me.
me.
So, no, go ahead, Ann.
But I put the beast in the one briefcase in one turn.
You did. So, Josh, go first.
No, go ahead, Ann.
No.
So ready to jump in there.
But please, go right ahead. Good sir.
No, I enjoyed the game. I don't know. Everyone's gonna say that 5,000 times during this stream, during this
Segment.
first impression segment. I can't talk now either. Well, I normally can't talk, so that's okay. I like the. So Matt, can you put a player board up on camera?
I'm going to switch over to the board cam just because I think it'll look a little bit cleaner.
Let's do Queenie, because we didn't get to see Queenie during the playthrough.
Sure.
I like her.
So, everyone has these 5 actions.
So, protect, capture 1, distract, insight, and capture 3.
But each one has a different amount of dice they need to get these ready.
So there's 3 different stages. There's ready, there's set, and then there's the use of the action.
Yeah.
So the ready is the large column that you see at the bottom. So that is going to be how many dice it requires based off the number of symbols that you see there to ready your action. Once it's readied, it remains ready until something would otherwise do it. If you get 1 more die, either on the same turn or on a different turn, you can set your action. And then finally, after it's set, you can use 1 more die on that turn or another turn to use the action.
But once your action's set, other players can also use, if they have that action set as well.
You can cooperatively interchange the actions, kind of. So you can use your teammate's action if you already used yours, because you can only use 1 action once.
Yeah. So I really like that mechanism of you can use your other player's actions, but you also have to have it set too. And I like the asymmetrical design of each character. So it's not like everyone's stacked on this one action because that's the easiest action to do. It's
right.
like for my character, single capture was the easiest, while for Matt was distraction, which was my hardest.
Right. So a converse point to that, though, is Cammie kind of pointed it out in the explanation of the rules, is that you almost want to try and build things at the same time. The same columns at the same time as your teammates, because then you can play off of those actions as each other, the same actions. So it might be harder for one person to do it, but based on your roles, you might try to go for something that's harder in order to complement what your teammates are doing.
Yeah.
So it's definitely cooperative in that aspect, in that you're sacrificing a little bit of efficiency on your turn for maybe the greater good of the team there. And so, personally, like knowing the characters, I like that their abilities suited what they were doing pretty well. So you've got the nomad Jacob here, who's
Bumbly,
kind of the bumbling oaf, and he distracts people very easily, but he doesn't have a lot of insight. Meanwhile, like Tina is going to be good at protecting because she's in like the Ministry of Magic. Newt's good at capturing for obvious reasons there, And then Queenie, being the medium that she is, obviously has the insight going for her. So I thought that was really neat as well.
So I like that whole aspect of it, of the co-op part of it. I like So the one thing you guys didn't see was the setup for the game. There is, I think, 2 level 1 monsters. And you pick one of them, and then I think there's 3 level 2s.
Okay. And you pick 2 of them?
Two of them?
I think we did 5 monsters in total.
No, you pick one of them, and then you pick 3 level 3s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of level 3 monsters. Most of the deck's level 3.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
So that's one of the interesting things about it. But to change the difficulty up, if you want to ease your game, you switch out one of those level 3s for a level 2.
Okay.
And then if you want a harder game, you actually I think you add a 6th monster and you have to catch.
Okay. I can see that.
Is how they up the difficulty scale. So it's very interesting. I liked how the monsters worked. I like how the dice worked. I like how everything kind of meshed together into what the game was.
The little simple addition of the spell cards that you get off of the insight I thought was a nice touch, just to give a little bit more variability to your playstyle, so it's not based kind of solely off your dice rolls.
Yeah.
So I did like that. Anne, how about you? Was there one aspect of the game that really jumped off to you besides how awesome the monsters are?
No. Thanks for asking. Look, I mean, Cammy started off talking about it and just like how absolutely beautiful and the imagery is for the game. I talked a little bit about how much I really like the geometric pattern on the side. It really is just a very pretty game. You know, Cammy mentioned when she was talking about the game that they kind of made it for her 2 daughters. And I think this is an excellent gateway game. We talked about it a little bit at the end of our playthrough, how the game is got just a little bit more meat than a typical family household, bad board game. And I think that this is a great holiday gift game to give to somebody who really likes Harry Potter but doesn't know much about board games, and kind of get a feel like, oh, there's so much more to board games than, your Monopoly. But also, look at how cute the animals are. That's an egg.
That's an egg.
That does not.
That just can't be very. I don't
They
think you
can
could have
be.
a cute egg.
You could put it on a plate with some salt and pepper, and it'll look real cute as an omelet. But I mean, the artwork is just fantastic. I mean, the movie, it's all, the movie art is still what Matt looks like.
One thing that was interesting was Cammy brought this up during the stream itself, is that your health is finite, and that there's really only one way to regain health, and that's capturing this one specific monster. But otherwise, you cannot regain health. And I thought that's interesting, just because a lot of games have a heal mechanic in it, and this went for a more finite. Granted, you're getting protection, you're getting the shields, but I thought it was neat to have the finite health.
Yeah, I mean, you finite health, but I think that's really bad. I almost feel like that's a bigger warning. Okay, so one of the things that Cammy said at the end of our playthrough is that she would have one scenario that we did not come into was a position in which we were worried for our lives or worried for our health.
Typically, the monsters that we faced today were all monsters that ran away more than they attacked us.
And even though, you can't regain health, I don't know, when she first said that, I was like, oh man, you're only ever going to go down. But I feel like the protect mechanism really is a substitute for a health scale. And that instead of heal, you're just gaining or losing more. Heal and hurt, you're gaining and losing protects. Because aside from the first hit where I got hit before I had my defenses up, I didn't get hit.
The first one, there was a couple rounds where I got really low in the shields, and I was a little worried about it, but
right?
We did a good job of covering each other.
Yeah, but you're worried when you lose your shields and not worried about your health getting down to 0.
Very true. But also keep in mind that we did not face the monsters that were attacking us as regularly, so maybe that played into how we were experiencing it as well.
Could be.
All right, so anything else that you want to talk about for the positives before we go into the constructive criticisms?
We talked about the asymmetric powers for the characters and how well they went with the characters' personalities from the story. We talked about it's the same thing applies to the beasts that were done. Talked about the art. I like the gameplay. I like that kind of chuck dice lock. I mean, it's kind of a not a really heavy game. You don't really need to think too much.
The box is 45 minutes.
So one thing that I did want to point out is that with a lot of these dice chucker type games is that sometimes you feel that you roll and your turn is kind of a waste because you can't do anything with it. But I don't think any of us actually experience that with this game because they do a good job with, one, having the different scales for your powers, so you seem to always have something you'll be able to do, as well as the cooperative mechanism of being able to use your dice to aid your teammates. We never really ran into a situation where more than one of our dice was actually wasted.
Maybe 2 dice every now and then.
But yeah, for the most part, like we were able to use almost all of our dice every single round.
Yeah,
and I thought that was nice because we never really felt stuck. And even the rounds where we might necessarily have done a bunch directly to the monster, it was a round where you felt satisfied in your setup moving forward. So I did like that, and that we never felt that we had a meh turn. At least personally.
The insight cards were fun too. There were some really interesting ones in there.
The deck actually?
Yeah. So jumping into the constructive criticisms portion of this, this is based off of our first impression of the game. This is the first time that we're all playing it for a full playthrough. I know you had a chance to look at it a little bit at Gen Con. And this is very much our own personal opinion, so grain of salt. Is there anything that you would tweak given the opportunity, Anne?
I have a comment, but it's very much so goes back to those, I would really like this, but I don't know how to make it. So with that forewarning, I think after having played Thanos, I was expecting more of a challenge out of this game. And I don't know if that's just my personal opinion. Like, I think this is something I might purchase to buy as a gift to give to somebody who doesn't game. I definitely think that this is a gateway game, somebody to sit down with somebody who plays games. But for me, I'd like a little more meat. And I don't know if adding a 6th monster to the board is going to scratch that itch. What?
That's the question. You mean meat as in more difficulty, not like more weight to the game?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have the same. We only played it once, and we might have had an easy round. We didn't have a heavy attackers and stuff like that. I shoved one monster right into the suitcase first turn.
One of the most difficult ones.
I was like, nope, not dealing with this. Oh, I get rid of you. And we happened to both be very lucky in our rolls that we both kept our triple capture.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was able to double triple capture, and had the card to add. So it was a very
fortuitous.
This
is true.
Word right there.
Yeah.
So
I did well
think
best cities.
I want to say that it seems on a little easier side, but I don't want to give that judgment till I play another game or two. And actually try the. I'll not argue because I have but that was my exact same comment. Was I felt it was a little bit on the easy side.
I also don't know if it's because I've likened this game mentally to Thanos Rising.
The dice chucking makes it feel somewhat similar.
I think so.
And the locking in of the choices that you're doing with the dice.
Yes.
One thing that I would like to see is the game does a good job of scaling everyone's powers based on the character. Except everyone has 5 shield spots. I kind of think that I would like to see that vary as well, character to character.
Really?
Yeah, so that you have some characters who are intentionally tankier than others, but might be better at other aspects, so maybe even skew their skills a little bit more to accommodate that. I don't know, I'm a big sucker for individual player powers, and there's not really individual player powers here per se, but individual player resource utilization, if you can call it that. Efficiency of resource utilization. So I think that would just add another level of depth to it for me. Just because you might have like one character that has to babysit another one to help them out more, as a trade-off of the other character being a lot more efficient in their capturing abilities. So that's something I would like to see. I don't think it detracts from the game. I just think that would be a nice
And I think
plus for me. Or even a trade-off of total health value to number of shields.
maybe. It's interesting.
I stumped Josh with my point.
Oh,
Jacob.
I'm not-
Jacob would be smooshy.
Yeah, it'd be squishy.
He'd be squishy.
But they kind of did that with he has 3 shields to get set, where everyone all beside Queenie also has 3
Yeah,
to get. That's set to get
readied.
ready. So
So that was just like a personal thought
Yeah.
that I had.
It wasn't a public thought that you
No,
had? It was
no,
personal?
personal.
It's a good thing you didn't share it with the whole internet.
I know, right? We didn't go through a ton of the insight cards, but
I was looking through them. We saw pretty much every
did we?
type of them.
So I was gonna say maybe a little bit more variety
variety.
out of them, like maybe some that affect the monsters in different ways. I don't know how. I'm just throwing that out there. Variety is the spice of life, after all.
We saw every single
Oh, okay.
insight card.
And I'm kind of grasping at straws here for stuff because I think the game plays incredibly solid for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is flavor text I think would go a long way on these cards too.
Oh. Yeah, that'd be
That's a
cute.
very good point. So it hugs the theme even closer. That's a very good point.
One of the other minor things. So I didn't realize this until I looked at the track does have some numbers on it at
Yes.
every 5 spot,
Yes, I saw it.
which I didn't even see.
I didn't even notice that. Might be hard to see on here.
No,
But you
15.
can see 20, 15.
So there is that.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Can you
Good.
tell the difference of the die?
What do you mean?
The teal die versus.
The teal versus the black?
Or these.
There we go. I mean, and it's not really great up there in the green
Yeah.
screen.
They did it. Well, the one thing that they do is I don't think any monster ever has. We can't have more than one teal die, and they all have the teal die,
All the way at the
and
end
it's
of the
all
right.
the way at the right hand
They
side.
all have the teal die.
So, and then I think that's almost a non-issue.
Yeah, it's a non-issue.
A quick reference guide would have been nice.
Yeah, that was the other thing. A quick reference guide would have been nice.
I'm surprised because I don't really feel like I needed one for this, other
It
than I kept
wasn't-
on.
A huge concern.
Yeah.
But it would have been maybe nice to put on the side of the player board. There's only 4 player boards, and they've got, they're pretty beefy.
Yeah.
So just a little panel on the side of saying, hey, you roll, you set, like something like that. I don't know.
The rule book could be written better.
I know Josh was saying that they don't go in depth in the examples of how you can allocate your dice. So it was slightly confusing, but once we got into the swing of things, it became pretty clear.
So, the rule book says, all right, you can get something ready, you can get something set, and then it gave an explanation of like, oh, you have these 3 dice, you could use the first 2 to get your protect ready, and then the third one to set your protect, and then the next step says, all right, you can activate dice by using dice, but it didn't say you can get something ready, set it, and then activate it in the same turn. And then
Just
it showed
have
an
that say
example
explicit?
of, yeah, it wasn't explicit, and it was a little. It was broken out that it didn't sound like you. I wasn't really sure what you could do, and it just, if that example was in there saying, "Hey, you could do this, this, and how that works," would have made it a little bit clearer. And that was the hardest part of in the rule book for me, was just trying to figure that out.
The drawings in the rule book are pretty.
Yeah, the rulebook's actually very pretty.
The naked mole rat.
All right, so is there anything else that either of you two would like to point out regarding constructive criticisms before we jump into the would you play it again question?
Did you get a royalty check for them using your likeness?
Thank you.
I would have liked stupid little thing. I would have liked the little tracker on the monster to be slightly bigger. It is.
It is quite small, and that's a good comment because, and I guess this goes back to something that was nice about the game. Matt, if you could go to the board cam quickly just once. So they were talking about this game being more accessible for small children. So the way that you ready your board is that you say, okay, I got 3 single capture icons or die, so I know that I can put this ready cardboard piece in here to lock it off. Well, if you're little or you don't want to count or you're being lazy, that same spot also holds the appropriate number of dye. So I thought that was really nice because
It
she
was
was
a nice
talking about like with
little
the
touch,
with the little kids, like you can
Pick it up easier.
pick it up easier. So then to compare that to, I don't even know what it is. Oh my god, it's so small. To this little tiny slider piece. I mean, I thought the yellow triangle was nice because I have, I like to have things that line up nicely so I could line up my little triangle,
Directionality,
wherever I went. But it's just, from going to have the concern about, oh, little children can get their little children, or Josh can get their little hand fingers in here, to being like, this is so, like, okay, do it. Slide it. Look at those ham fists, guys. Oh, it's not even in the camera. Like, it's not graceful.
He's already having trouble. This is great.
Also, he's got tiny T-Rex arms. And
All right.
yeah.
The other minor thing, I'm not a big fan of the slider on the side for health.
It's a little tough to move.
And you have to pick up the. It's
Pick
nice
up
that
the
the
board.
board's reset, so all the everything stays in there. But
Yeah.
it would've
Recessed.
been,
Okay, so jumping into the most important question of the evening of would you play this game again? Down at the end of the table, Joshua.
oh yeah, definitely play this again. Something we didn't note: the player count is 2 to 4,
Right.
and I don't see any scale issues with this.
Because the monster goes after each person's turn, and you can.
Well, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, because you're not going to get as much armor.
You can't activate other people's abilities as
Yeah.
much. So I think it might be harder at a 2-player. Where
Yeah.
Thanos Rising has the opposite issue of
The more players it is, the harder it is.
Yeah,
This might be the more players it is, the easier it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is just interesting.
So, Anne?
I definitely play this again, and I would love to actually play it with the kids. I think they would have a blast.
I would definitely play this again. I like that you don't use all the monsters, and you can kind of like pick and choose what you want to do. So I can see Josh and I doing a hardcore run of this game where we put all the monsters in, all the beasts in, and just go crazy with it, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. I would definitely play this game again, and it's Harry Potter, so why not? Come on.
We talked about the easy difficult. One thing I want everyone to know is Matt and I play co-op games
A lot.
We
We
and
break
we
co-op
have
games a lot. Yeah.
a tendency to break co-op games a lot. So that might be part of why we said that. Not to just.
It might not be as easy as we're leading it on to be. It's just that we kind like we have a tendency to excel in co-op games like this.
Yeah.
Okay, the mind boys.
Yeah. So with that, that's going to be thumbs up across the board from all of us here. But this is going to be Twist Gaming signing off for our first impression session here of Fantastic Beasts: Perilous Pursuit. As usual, I'm Matt.
I'm Ann.
I'm Josh.
Thank you again to USAopoly for sponsoring this stream and all of this week's streams. And go find Fantastic Beasts: Perilous Pursuit in your friendly local game store soon.
Yes.
Have a good one, everyone. Good night.
Good night.